Welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast, where hunters new and old come to learn and find inspiration from stories of hunts gone by. Everyone is welcome to enjoy the outdoor way of life, and there is no better time to start than right now. So let's head into the great outdoors with your host, Dylan Ray.
All right, guys, thank you for joining us on Bear Archery's Hunting 101. I am joined by Miss Kristy Titus today. Kristy, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Happy New Year. It's 2021, and we're just kicking off our first work week, so it's awesome.
It is 2021. I'm excited to see 2020 go. I'd be lying to say I'm going to miss it.
I think everybody is hoping and praying for a little different world this year, so we'll see how it goes.
Let's hope. Well, before we dive in, give us a quick introduction to yourself, everything you do, pursue the wild, and just kind of how you got to where you're at. And, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, my name is Kristy Titus, and I host a digital TV show called Pursue the Wild that airs on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and Amazon TV. So I'm completely digitally based. I'm not on a network. I'm from Oregon. I grew up out west. We've got mules, and I grew up backcountry hunting with my family, and started that passion really young. My family was always extremely involved in conservation. My dad is an early member of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. I can remember him being a member from the time I was a little girl, with him and my mom, kind of getting deaded up and going to banquets and stuff. And so I'm an ambassador for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, and I have been for a long time. I'm going to stretch it. I don't even remember how long. But I think I've been an ambassador with them like 12 years or something now. And then, so I've been involved in conservation for a long time, but in my early 20s, I really kicked off working with Safari Club International, and I was president of a chapter, did some lobbying with them in DC, and things just rolled out. For me, being a steward to the land and wildlife, that is what hunters are, and that's really the Fredbear way, is being a good steward to the land and wildlife. So, joining the Bear Archery team is really an honor, and it really ties into the core of who I am as a hunter.
And from the bottom of my heart, and from the bottom of all of our hearts at Bear Archery, thank you so much for joining the team. We're excited to have you on board. We're excited to see what you can do with the bear bow in your hands. And, I know you've, on your social media, already posted your thoughts on the new Redemption, which I was excited to see. I'm excited to see you like the bow. That's personally what I'm shooting as well. And I absolutely have fallen in love with that bow for many of the reasons you stated on social media. And so we're excited to have you on the team. We're excited to have you be a part of the Fredbear way, because we believe that you represent exactly what we represent. So we're just excited to have you on board with us.
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled. I've been, I just got my Redemption. Obviously, it's a newer bow as well. So what did it launch in September? So I love it. One thing I really love about the bow, and this is, I think a lot of women can appreciate this statement, is being able to draw a heavier poundage bow. Some of them, the cam systems and stuff, are so radical that it's really, they make the same poundage ratio very difficult to kind of get that breakover point. And the Redemption EKO, like, I picked up that bow and I was drawing 3 pounds more without blinking an eye than I've ever drawn in my life. And that's the first bow I really feel confidently that, with a lot of practice, like especially in my earlier season, like elk hunts and stuff, I have no doubt I'll be shooting 60 pounds this year. And I may crank it back down to like 55 for some of my whitetail hunts, just because when I get cold, you stiffen up a little bit. But I'm really confident I'm going to be able to draw more and have a faster bow than I've ever shot in my life. And even where I'm at right now, it's the fastest bow with my complete setup that I've ever shot. So it's really impressive. And
that was my exact thought. The first time I drew that bow, it felt like I was drawing a toy. And I drew it back, and I immediately, it's a 70-pound bow, and I immediately was like, all right, it's not cranked down all the way. And I checked, and sure enough, it was cranked all the way. And I'm like, there's no way I'm pulling 70. And
it does not feel like it.
It doesn't. It feels like a toy. And so then when I went to get it all tuned up and everything, I put it on a scale, and I'm like, they had to have sent me a 60-pounder. There has to be something wrong with this. And sure enough, it was 70 pounds. And I'm like, man, it's a phenomenal draw cycle. And I fell in love with the Status EKO because of the adjustability, but this bow, the Redemption, has the same adjustability as the Status, with a much softer draw cycle, a much quieter shot, less hand vibration. And this bow, the Bear Archery team absolutely outdid themselves when they came out with this bow. Now tell me about the rest. You're shooting the hot wire sight, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I'm shooting right now. That's what I put on. I'm also maybe going to be shooting the React HS, which is the 5-pin sight. But the hot wire, for me, I'm mostly shooting elk and then whitetail. So primarily I'm going to be, 20, 30 yard pin on my whitetail. So those will be my fixed, kind of go-to pins. And on elk, and if I'm shooting elk outwards of 40 yards, that third mover pin, I better have that animal in a really good spot, really comfortable. I want to be able to have time. It really just, for me, that hot wire sight allows me the freedom to be able to take a 45-yard shot and dial that pinpoint of impact instead of, holding a few inches high. And I just really think that a lot of people, once you get in the moment of hunting and you start doing that kind of guesswork, especially with a shorter draw length, lower poundage, a little bit slower bow, it's easier to make mistakes. So I like that third pin being a floater. It just really gives me that confidence of point of aim, point of impact. Take your time and really make those shots count. And I'm excited to shoot that. And I think a lot of times, like for me, especially if I'm whitetail hunting and I get in a stand and I draw back on a deer and all my pins are covering the deer, it's a lot easier to just really get punchy on your trigger and maybe accidentally use the wrong pin or, kind of make mistakes. So having that clear field of view, I really like that feature. So that was why I went instantly for the hot wire.
Yeah. And that's, I shoot a 3-pin. So I shoot the React Trio for many of the same reasons, but I shoot kind of a hybrid. So I took the React Trio housing off of the sight, and I put it on one of the React 1 Pro dovetails. So I have a React Trio head on a dovetail. And for many of those same reasons, because if I'm sitting in a whitetail stand, I know I've got my 20-30 and my 40. And if I'm going to shoot past 40, then I need to range find it and dial it exactly where I need it anyways. So I'm the same way. I don't really like having more than 3 pins because, again, if you're shooting at 50, 60 yards, say you got a deer at 56 yards, that's a long shot to try to shoot a gap. So
it's a long shot for gap shooting, yes, for sure. Yeah.
So to be able to dial that pin exactly where I need it and shoot, it's important to me, but also I would say it's vital to me. I mean, I don't know how anybody. I mean, I have gap shot that far, but it's just on a live animal. I don't want to take that chance. So I love a 3-pin slider sight. Before we move on, I do want to give a quick thank you to our friends over at Nexus Outdoors, with our friends over at ScentLock, Scent Blocker, and Oz by ScentLock. And we're about to talk a little bit about Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's. So just head into a Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's and check out the entire lineup from ScentLock. It's my favorite gear on planet Earth. But their Oz line, their ozone products are absolutely fantastic. And so I know ordering online sometimes with hunting gear can be kind of tricky because I'm very picky about the way my hunting clothes fit, even more so than I am my church clothes. So head into a Cabela's, try on jackets, try on pants, figure out what fits for you, and go check out the entire lineup of ScentLock, Scent Blocker, and Oz. Now, you have worked with Cabela and Bass Pro Shop for a while, which those are some of our really good friends and just fantastic guys. Were you nervous at all about the combination of the two?
I think with change, everybody has concern. I mean, change is the unknown, you know. You don't know what's going to happen. so of course everybody was a little bit nervous at first in the industry, and then, you know, as an ambassador, especially because you don't know if the new marketing people are going to embrace you as, you know, having the same vision that prior marketing teams. But everything's been fantastic for me working with Bass Pro. They've welcomed me with open arms into their family, and they've been wonderful. And I really believe that Johnny is obviously a steward to the land, a great conservationist, and is really looking out for the hunting industry as a whole, and has a lot of care and concern in that.
Yeah, and that, you know, I was recently a part of that change with Bear, with new people coming on, new marketing teams, new presidents, and I had kind of the same fear of, well, how's this going to go? Will I enjoy working with them, or will they enjoy working with me? And so I understand exactly what you're saying. Thankfully that the guys over at Bear have just they've done amazing things, not only with me but the company as a whole, and I'm so excited about the direction that Bear Archery is going. But also, you know, I have got to speak to some of the inside guys at Bear at Bass Pro and Cabela's. And to hear them talk about how smooth of a transition it was makes me happy. Because, you know, I had that fear of like, well, these are two quote unquote competing stores, and now they're joining forces. How will that go? There'll be a lot of head bumps. Will there be a lot of we got to do it this way? Well, we've always done it this way. And I was just so happy to hear about the smooth transition. And at the end of the day, Kristy, you know, I'm a strong believer in we're all sportsmen. And we're all striving for the same thing. We're all hunters. You know, we're all bow hunters. And so I like watching people put aside differences and do what's best for the consumer and what's best for the archery industry and hunting industry. And so I was so incredibly pleased to hear that transition with Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's just went so flawlessly, so smoothly, and so you know, what's best for everybody happened. It wasn't like one party was left in the dark and one got the better end of the stick. Everybody came out happy in that deal, and it just made me so happy. But also, I'm a strong proponent of going into a Bass Pro, much like I just talked about with Scentlock. I'm a strong proponent of heading into a Bass Pro Shop at Cabela's, picking up a Bear bow, shooting it at the lanes there, and figuring out what you like and how you feel about it. So I would encourage you to head into a Bass Pro Shop or Cabela's and pick up some of our bows like the Divergent EKO, and figure out how you feel about those bows. That Divergent, have you shot the Divergent?
Not yet. It's really similar to the Redemption, a little bit shorter axle to axle. So I kind of like the sound of that. It's same weight overall and a little bit half-inch longer on the brace, or a quarter-inch longer on the brace height. So I think that'll be, you know, for those of us that get a little canty on our bow, might help us, you know, stabilize some of those shots. But they're very, very similar bows. I'm excited to try the Divergent and see, you know, they both have that same range of let off. But yeah, I haven't quite got one yet. I'm working on it.
Yeah. And I'm a skeptic of short axle-to-axle bows. I really like 32 inch axle-to-axle, 32, 33. That seems to be in the money for me. And I'm always kind of a skeptic. And one of my friends ordered the Divergent, and I think he's 6'5". And I'm like, bro, why are you ordering that bow? It's going to be such a sharp, steep, harsh string angle, and you're just not going to enjoy it. And he's had that bow now for 3 years, shot tons of animals with it. He absolutely loves that bow. And so I shot it at the lanes at Bass Pro Shop, and I was just blown away by the performance of that short of an axle-to-axle bow, and how they packed it into all the features and all the functionality and all the smooth draw and the smooth shot in such a small, compact bow. I was absolutely blown away by that bow. And so, yeah, I'm excited to hopefully get one. And I think that's what I'm going to get my wife to shoot. If not the new legit that's so adjustable and can pass down to kids and so on and so forth. My wife's done with it. But yeah, I'm incredibly. So head into a Bass Pro Shop, head into Cabela's, try out these bows, shoot them for yourself. I've had guys that call me and say, "Hey, man, I just shot this bow at Cabela's. How is the redemption any better than this?" And I'm like, "Well, you just got to shoot it and find out," because those bows are absolutely good performing bows.
Yeah, you're going to have a hard time getting the redemption out of my hands. I really love it. So I'm like, oh, which one am I going to like better? I don't know yet. So we'll see. I'm in love with the redemption, though. I've got some really awesome archery hunts coming up this year that I'm really looking forward to taking that bow on. It's going to be a good year.
Now, what does it mean to you? And this is kind of a loaded, hard question, I guess. But what does it mean to you to be a part of bear archery and to live that Fredbear lifestyle? With it being the Fredbear way, what does the Fredbear way mean to you? And what does it mean to you to be a part of a company with such rich history and such strong roots in the archery community?
Well, I think Fred obviously is an iconic archer, and he is someone who always put the care and concern of the animal as his paramount. When he was shooting his recurves, he always made sure that his setup gave him the proper amount of energy and, to make that one shot count and always be as humane and ethical as possible. And I really think that goes from, knowing the animal, knowing the land, understanding that you're here as a larger purpose and a larger part of that cycle. And we are here as a steward to Mother Earth and on everything that calls it home. So for me, being part of that is really important. As a hunter, I take extreme reverence in the process of hunting. I understand that a life is taken for me to harvest the meat and bring that bounty home. And I think Fred was or is, iconic of that philosophy, and to be part of that in a large scale is really profound. I think a lot of people lose sight of what it really truly means to be a hunter, and what the value in hunting isn't the trophy necessarily, but it's the experience. And I really think that Bear is doing a really good job of bringing that experience to families, because as we know, the success in archery a lot of times is rather low. I mean, not everybody that goes out with a bow in their hand and an archery tag in their pocket is successful. And so as archers, we really have to appreciate the process of being a hunter and getting close and, living in those moments as those being the magic of the hunt and not necessarily the harvest.
Yeah. And you said it perfectly. You said it absolutely perfectly. Sometimes we're way too consumed with the harvest, and I'm just as guilty as everybody. But we miss the hunt for the harvest, and So I personally for this year am taking up the challenge of shooting a recurve, and part of that is because I want to value the hunt, and I understand by picking up the recurve I might not harvest the animals I could with my compound, but I want to experience the hunt and hunt for all it's worth, and sometimes that's going to mean coming home brokenhearted. I'm headed out to, well, actually, while this episode airs, I'll be in Texas, South Texas, on a whitetail hunt with my recurve. And I understand I might come back empty-handed. I might come back with a missed shot. I might come back with a deer that stood at 40 yards. And if I had my compound, it would be dead, but I don't. But I want to get back to that, just enjoying the hunt for what it is. And that's failures, that's heartbreak, that's hard work. That's, I think sometimes we way overvalue the harvest and we push aside and forget the hunt.
Well, it's all about the journey.
It is.
It's all about the journey. It's all about the experience and those memories. I mean, some of my favorite elk hunts this year, for example, man, I had a stellar elk season. I didn't harvest an elk, but I had so many close encounters that were just like, okay, one more step, or if that limb wouldn't have been there. And, that is, the pleasure and the pain that comes with bow hunting. And I think people that are bow hunters truly value that more than anything.
Yeah. And that what you just said sums up my Kansas whitetail season. Within 2 weeks, I I had my top 2 hit list bucks within. One was at 40 yards and so one more step, and one was at 50 yards coming in on a string and got on a hot doe and left. And it was just like, man, heartbreaking. And then, when it finally all come together, it was just, it was worth it in the end, to have those heartbreaks, to have those struggles, to have those times of, wanting to just throw your bow across the woods. But no, you're absolutely correct. So before I move on and talk to you about your upcoming hunts, let me give a quick thank you to our friends over at Bonning. They make everything you need to not only build your arrows, but they make the components to build your arrows. And they have some incredible Bear Archery branded products with some Fredbear flannel and Fredbear camo on some wraps. And so our friends over at Bonning make it an absolute pleasure to build your own arrows. So go check out Bonning Archery. Now, Kristy, what do you have planned for the 2021 year?
So right now I'll be starting out probably in April doing a little bit of archery turkey hunting in Missouri. It's so funny. Eastern turkeys are the only turkey I haven't harvested. It's like the one everybody has. So I'd really love to complete my slam of turkeys with my bear bow this year. So that is kind of my goal, to finally put all that together. So we'll see. But that's where I'm going to start in April. And then in July, I'm going to South Africa. So I'm really excited to be going there. And my goal in Africa for my bow hunts is not waterhole sitting. I've done that once, and I really did not enjoy that experience as much. So my goal in Africa is to be doing some spot-and-stalk archery hunting. So, kind of on the list would be sables and yalla, bushbuck. But we'll see. I'm going to have my bow in my hand, and I'm going to be using the terrain as much as possible, and just give her my best in Africa first in July.
That'll be fun. Speaking of turkeys, let me tell you a little bit about the Sk2 Broadhead from Sk2. One of my friends called me this morning, and he said he had a turkey at 62 yards, and this is the same guy. He's shooting the Redemption. And so he's sitting in a ground blind, which for a 6'4" guy to be able to shoot a bow out of a ground blind, it almost has to be a 28-inch bow. And so he has a turkey at 62 yards, and he lets one rip, and he smokes that turkey. And he walks out, and he gets the Sk2 Broadhead, and he washes it off in the snow, and goes back to his blind, puts another flight clip on, and 10 minutes later shoots a doe with the same arrow, same broadhead. So
That's awesome.
I was impressed to hear that the Sk2 Broadhead has absolutely blown my mind. So I would go check those out for all you guys who are listening, because they have, I believe they have created a broadhead that will be very, very tough to beat. Voted the best broadhead of the year by Field and Stream, and just an absolute incredible broadhead. I busted through the Kansas buck I shot this year, a mechanical broadhead busting through both shoulders. I was incredibly impressed. So, what else do you got planned for the year?
I'm going to be hunting Archery Elk in Colorado in September. And then I'm going to roll into Archery Whitetail in Montana, Archery Whitetail, I'm hoping, in Kansas. We'll see if I draw. Archery Whitetail in Missouri. And then I may end up going to South Texas for Aoudad and whitetail in December, depending on how my season shakes out. So we'll just see.
Have you ever hunted South Texas before?
No. So I'm trying to do like this, low fence, free range Aoudad, and actually I think it's a rutting mule deer hunt. I think I might have just said whitetail on accident, but it would be a rutting mule deer hunt down there. So we'll see. I've hunted South Texas, I guess, once for Aoudad. It's been 6 or 7 years ago. I did a hunt down there for sheep.
South Texas is one of the most incredible places to hunt. It as far as hunting outside of the country, it's so much like hunting in another country. I mean, it really is. It's so game rich. It's it's just a fun hunt no matter what you're hunting. Whitetails, mule deer, axis, mouflon, whatever you're hunting, black buck. There's so much to hunt, and it's like no other place in the country. It's just it's an incredibly fun place to hunt. Me and Alec, like I said, when this episode airs, we will be in South Texas chasing whitetails with our friends at Liberty Ranch and Lincoln Ranch. And I am so incredibly excited to get down there. I don't think Alex ever hunted South Texas, so I'm excited. I'm excited to get him down there and try to harvest some whitetail and some hogs. But I recorded a podcast one time with a guy from Australia, and he said one of his favorite places to hunt, and he's hunted all over the world. I think he said like 10 different countries, and so he's hunted all over the world. And he said South Texas is one of my favorite places to hunt because he said it's the most like home. It's the most like hunting in Africa. And I'm like, well, like Australia. And I'm like, well, that's good to know because I've always wanted to hunt Australia, so now I kind of know what it's like. But to hear somebody say that's got to hunt all over the world sure made me proud as being somebody who gets to hunt there. And so I'm excited to go. I'm excited for you to get to go, and I wish you the best of luck while you're there.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to head to Africa, and it's going to be a great experience, great trip. But my heart is with archery elk hunting, so I'm chomping at the bit for September.
Yeah, it seems like forever off, but it'll be here before we know it. I know that.
No, we can't come here fast enough. Can we just get it over with? Come on, 2021, let's go. I'm ready to elk hunt.
I don't know if you have the same issue I do, but when you plan a hunt that, say you plan it 10 months or even, 18 months out, it's almost as if like, this is never going to happen. Like, come on, hurry up. And then when it finally gets here, you're like, holy cow, it's here. Like, it's time to hunt.
Holy cow, it's here. And you blink your eyes and it's over. It's like, wait a second, what just happened?
Yeah. Then you got to wait another year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where at in Colorado are you going to be hunting? Is this over the counter? Is this with an outfit?
Yeah, so I hunt over the counter. It's a general tag, but I hunt with the same outfitter every year. And he's got 18,000 acre ranch leased, and I hunt the same place. The last couple of years, I rifle hunted it in the second season, and it's a really tough hunt with a rifle because the elk are not rutting, and it's really heavy timber and thick bush. And like this last year, I finally managed to harvest an elk, literally with my gun at 20 yards. And I snuck in on it and, kind of figured out where it was crossing to go feed, and literally snuck in on it under the cover of darkness and I hunted it like I would with a bow, and was successful on it by just, kind of following that winter pattern. But it's really the perfect place to hunt during the rut because you have elk in there. It's heavy timber. It allows you a lot of opportunity to do some calling sets. And I have an elk call line with Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls. So that's what I want to go back there for. I'm going to, hang up my rifle in that particular hunt in Colorado this year and focus with my bow on elk. And it should be the perfect place for, really intimate encounters with bow hunting. And this year's rifle hunt just solidified that to me. I'm like, okay, game on. I'm going back with my bow next year.
Well, hopefully you lay the smack down on a beautiful bull with your redemption, and you can come back on and tell us the story of how it all unfolded.
Yeah, I'm hoping. We'll see how it goes. It'll be, regardless of what happens on the hunt, it's going to be incredible. I mean, like in Montana this year, it's such an incredible season, and just so many close calls, just no cigar,
Yeah.
just not quite. And that's part of being an archer. So. But to me, there's nothing more magical. Yeah,
and it all goes back to exactly what we were just talking about. The missed opportunities is what makes it so much sweeter when it finally happens. And if we went out and harvested an animal the first time we hunted, then it wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't be worth it. I mean, if my dad really brought that into perspective for me one time. I was kind of bummed out about the hunting season I had, and he just said, "Well, son, what would happen if you shot a deer the first time you went out? Really think about how your year would look if first day, first morning, you harvested a deer." And I was like, I guess you're right. And he's like, you wouldn't be able to hunt. Your season would be over. You would be done hunting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess you're right. Now, now that I'm a bit older and more understanding of the hunt and the process, when you harvest that animal finally, it's almost I can't explain it to a non-hunter, but it's almost the most bittersweet feeling in the world, because it's like, yes, finally. And then the moment sets in where you're like, crap, I'm done. Like, I'm done chasing you now. This chapter is over, and now I got to begin a new chapter. And so it's almost the most bittersweet feeling of just pure raw joy and excitement, followed by a moment of, oh crud, there's still 2 months left of the season and I'm done hunting.
Well, the other pure joy too is watching some of these deer grow up year after year. You follow their journey over the course of years, and you're like, I've hunted the same place in Missouri for whitetail, and I don't know, 3 or 4 years now with Prairie Land Outfitters, and David's got some incredible deer, and I'll catch like a glimpse of them, 150 yards away on a bow hunt, and then I don't see them. They go into lockdown, and I don't see them for a week, and I'm like, I know this deer is here. We have trail camera pictures of it, and it's like that for years, and it's like, oh my gosh, that deer's still here, and that to me gives me so much hope and excitement year after year going back, because then you really start to see these animals age, what their potential is, and just knowing that they've had a good opportunity to live a full life. And it's fun to watch them, and it's very rewarding when you actually are able to harvest one that's been kind of escaping you for that many years as well.
Yeah. And again, non-hunters never understand this, but you build a relationship with those deer. You build
Absolutely.
You build a 100% build a sense of respect for the deer, and just like how brilliant they are and how smart they are and how elusive they are, and how you build a sense of respect for them. And it's almost this, if you harvest a mature whitetail, it's this 7-year, 6-year chess match, and you finally win. And it's just, it's the most overwhelming feeling, followed by, well, now I don't get to chase you anymore. Now it's over, and I got to find a new target.
I don't think I've hunted a lot of game animals, and I don't know if there's a more challenging hunt than getting a big old whitetail with a bow. Like, when you do that, you've really done something, and it's not easy. It's not an easy hunt, and people are like, "Oh, you're just sitting in a tree waiting for the deer to walk by," and it's like, how many times we go back and have dinner, and then go back out in the dark when the deer are on the fields, and move stands, trying to get in the right spot and be in the right place, because their patterns move year to year, and even just a shift in wind like this year was a really tough year. We had a lot of south winds, where normally when I hunt, it's all north winds. So I went back in March and we hung stands where I've been patterned these year for all this north wind, and then this year with predominantly south wind, and it was like, oh my gosh, it's like starting at ground zero. And this is how deer get old. People have no clue that don't understand the years of commitment it can take, for sure.
And Western hunters, like you said, I've had Western hunting friends who are like, is it even really hunting because you're just sitting there? And I'm like, well, for us, the hunt comes in long before we're just sitting there. The hunt comes in the months of checking trail cameras, hanging stands, cutting lanes, the hours of work put in. You're right. You guys hunt for the shot, and we hunt all year for the shot. And so it's a different animal. It's a different beast, like that. You gave the perfect example. That deer I shot, this past year, I'd been running cameras and just figured out, he comes where I had set up, but there's a more dominant place he goes more consistently. And so I was sitting in the parking lot of my church underneath the street light, putting together a tree stand at like 10 p.m. To go out and hang it at 12 p.m. so I could hunt it at 5 a.m. And
that's right.
And so it ended up getting it done. But that's the kind of hunt that we do. It's a different hunt. It's not. You're right. I'm not spotting and stalking and chasing animals around a mountain. But my hunt is a year long for that one sit that you're talking about. So it's a different animal. And, a lot of people don't understand it. A lot of people don't understand where that joy comes in. But it's just that year long chess match game of where they're going, where they're going to be, where they're bedding, where they're feeding. It's just a different kind of hunt. And, a lot of whitetail Midwest guys don't understand hunting out West. And a lot of out Western guys don't understand hunting in the Midwest. So it's a different animal, and I would encourage everybody to try them both.
I had a stand hung every 80 yards, between 60 and 80 yards in this little section of timber, because there was one existing stand, and we're like, oh no, this isn't it. So we set another stand, and then I get in the stand, and I'm like, oh no, the deer are 80 yards over here. So then we move it in the middle of the night to this one spot, and I'm like, nope, we set it in the dark, and it just really wasn't quite the optic that I was looking for. And then we moved it again, and I'm like, how many times can you hang a stand in a section of woods that's 100 yards wide? And I'm going to tell you a lot until you get that right spot. Like you can play chess, like literally you're playing chess until you get it right. And it's, we're out in the middle of the night doing this stuff, and heck, you have some late nights and long sits. We're sitting, dark to dark, because I'm terrified to get out of my stand. Like a lot of people get out midday. I absolutely refuse to get out midday. So unless I have a super compelling reason to, you can count on me dark to dark.
Well, you have more patience and less ADHD than I have. I can tell you that.
You know what? I'm just so terrified. I get out, and we had this happen this last year. We had gotten out for some reason. I can't recall what it was, but it was a valid reason. We had to move stands, wind change or something. And we go in midday and bump, big shooter buck, it's just like, man, like you come back in, they can cruise midday anytime, all day long. And you're just running a risk of, every time you move. And sometimes, you get in that situation where you have a good morning wind, and then you've got to get out when the wind starts to switch and some things like that. And you're kind of chasing stands with your wind. But I pray for those solid winds, that the direction's going to be the same way all day long, so I can plunk down and just wait it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so Fredbear was big on field notes. So I always ask every guest to share with me a field note you've taken over the years. Just something you've learned while in the field that I can take and put in my arsenal that'll make me and our listeners a better hunter. So what's one field note that you've taken over the years?
So for me, I think the biggest thing that most hunters do is we get in too big of a hurry. And I think slowing down, looking, listening, having more introspect with your retrospect, and the environment is always a winner. Because animals have very few needs. They need food, they need water, and they need shelter. And when all of those needs are met, sometimes the demographic where they're living, especially in a Western environment, can be very small, and it also can be very big. And so I think we get in a big hurry to get to this place, especially, if I'm, pounded miles out west, we're in a hurry to get somewhere, and you rush by a lot of times little sounds, little things that are easy to miss. When I'm elk hunting, especially early season, I'm not looking for 10, 15 elk tracks or a lot of elk sign. I might just be looking for one bull track. And that type of sign is a lot harder to see when you're blowing through country fast than if you slow down and just listen and look and pay attention and just appreciate where you're at and listen to what the animal's doing instead of just rushing to where you think you need to be.
Beautiful. That is a perfect tip. So before we go, I do want to just say again that I am excited to have you on board. I'm excited to see what you can do with the redemption in Africa, and then with completing your turkey slam. And I'm excited to have you on the team. I will mention that next week, you want to tune in to next week's episode. We are going to be announcing a very, very large giveaway that you can win a free hunt. And so tune in next week to listen to our episode, and we're going to announce a very large giveaway. Before we go, I also do need to give a quick thank you to another one of our friends over at AmericanHunt.com. American Hunt is an Airbnb style website where you can log on and put in your destination and where you want to hunt, and you can lease land by the day. So it gives you a really good option if you're driving through, South Texas, and you're like, man, I've heard Dylan talk about South Texas. I really like to hunt it. You can log on and look at different areas and lease land by the day, so you don't have to commit to having a full year lease. but it also gives a good way to cash flow land. So if you've got land that you need to start making some money on, then listing it on American Hunt gives you a good way to get some cash flow without having to give away the rights to your land for the entire year. So go check out AmericanHunt.com. Kristy, thank you so much for coming on. Again, we'll have to talk again at the end of the year and recap all these hunts.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on, and I'm thankful and honored to be part of the Bear family, and it's going to be a great year.
Well, from me and from all of us at Bear Archery, welcome to the team. And we, again, are just so incredibly excited to see what you can do with that redemption. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. You guys have a great week.